All right, so we're going to start covering Unit 3 today. Unit 3 talks about the four market structures. That means we're going to talk about perfect competition, monopolistic competitive competition, oligopolies, and a monopoly. So first off, we're going to talk about perfect competition here. All right, perfect competition, it's kind of what it sounds like. Perfect means that they are the similar stuff. So if I have an apple here, and I'm one of many sellers of apples, and then you got Lexi right here, who also is producing apples. If I grow my apples, she grows her apples, and we sell them in a store, I am not going to be able to walk in and be like, oh yeah, that's my apple right there. Are you, Lexi?
Yes.
No. No, you're not. That's perfect competition. Okay, so the good thing of perfect competition is agriculture. Okay, whether we're both apple growers, we're going to sell our product, and because there's many of us, we're pretty much not going to have any control over price. Thank you, Lexi. So with this one, for number of sellers, there are many people in here. Okay, so we all can grow apples. You get a little bit of land around here, you can grow apples. Also, the product is the same. My apples and Lexi's apples are exactly the same, as opposed to thousands of other people that grow these things. Now, because we sell the same product and there's many of us, when it comes to control over price, we have no control. We are what we call price takers here. But the good thing about being a perfect competition is anybody can get into this market structure. So when we look at barriers of entry, there is really none, other than a little bit of cost. So I have land out here, I can start growing these apples and I can start selling them. I can sell them in stores, I can sell them on the side of the road. So the barriers of entry are very, very low. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is monopolistic competitive competition. Monopolistic competitive means that there are many different sellers in this market. They sell a similar product but not the same. So you see I got pens here, okay? Sharpie, they make pens. You have Ballpoint, you have Bic, you have Pilot, you have Flight. So at the end of the day, a pen is a pen, okay? But unlike perfect competition where they're the exact same pen, you have a lot of different styles here. Okay? You start off with maybe a blue pen, a black pen. They maybe went to green pens and red pens. You have 4-in-1 pens. You have gel pens. So you have all these different types of products here. So in this style, there are still a lot of, when it comes to sellers, there's still many of them. There is a lot. Next time you go to Walmart, if you can get out of your house, going down the pen aisle and you'll see a bunch of different producers of this product. Now, the product, at the end of the day, a pen's a pen, but there is some difference, right? So they have some differentiation. Differentiation, okay? You can make your product just a little bit different, and because of that, you have some control over price, right? You might go into the store and you might buy a pack of just regular 10 blue pens for like $1 or $2, or you might buy that 4-in-1 pen that's a little bit different, maybe for $3 or $4. Now, because of this, though, the barriers of entry are still relatively low because there's really no patents when it comes to pens, right? I knew a guy who made pens out of cardboard for a while. I know another guy who ships in wood from all over the world and custom makes his pens. Obviously, they're different prices than just going down to your store, but anybody can really get into this market. The next one is a very interesting one, oligopolies. It comes from the word oligarchy, which means ruled by many. So I have some props here, okay? Let's say this is Ford. Let's say this is Chrysler. And let's say this is GM, okay? These represent our car companies. There's not a whole lot of them out there because it's so expensive to get in. So in this system, there are a few sellers, usually between 3 and 10, okay? If it's 2, it's called a duopoly. We won't really get into that. But there are a few sellers in this market. They have similar or different products, right? You have Ford. They sell F-150s. GMC sells theirs. Dodge sells a truck. Tesla's even coming out with a truck, if you want to call that a truck. But their products are the same, but they're a little different. Because of this, they have a lot of control over price, right? Because there's not a lot of people in the marketplace. And the barriers of entry are really high here because it costs a lot of money to start producing cars. So if you have the money, you might be spending millions of dollars before you start producing your first car. Now your second car isn't going to cost you as much, right? Economies of scale are going to kick in. But the cost is so high that it pretty much keeps an oligopoly type of market. So the barriers of entry here are really high. And then our last one we're going to talk about is monopolies. Okay, so monopolies, these things were busted up, Standard Oil, American Steel, things like that. But monopolies still exist today. A great example of monopolies is the drug companies. And that word mono means one. So in numbers of sellers monopolies, there's only one. Okay? And when it comes to product, they sell just one product. Now, monopolists also have a lot of control over price. Here's an example why the government can come up and set monopolies when it comes to barriers of entry. So barriers of entry. Pharmaceutical companies are great for monopolies today, right? There's this whole thing, coronavirus coming out. You have different companies who are trying to make a vaccine for the coronavirus. Whichever company successfully makes that vaccine will have a 20-year patent, meaning they're the only company in the world that is going to be able to produce that product for the next 20 years. They can license out if they want, but they can do that. A great example is Motrin. Okay, Motrin, active ingredient, ibuprofen. Now, Motrin, when they made this ingredient, when they made this product, for 20 years they sold the product. After 20 years, though, they kept the copyright of Motrin, but the active ingredient ibuprofen is now sold anywhere for these generic brands right here. It lowers the cost, but for 20 years, they were the sole provider, which means the barriers of entry are extremely high, and because there's only one seller of this product, they have total control over prices. Now, this is just an introduction to Unit 3. We'll get more into it, and I'll break down each one of these, and I'll start uploading the graphs that go to these. And until then, stay safe.